Thanks for tapping into another episode of the Gifted Gab.
The Gifted Gab.
Gifted Gab.
The Gifted Gab.
The Gifted Gab.
The Gifted Gab.
Started with an idea.
Action.
Hi, I'm Adjei.
And I'm Alex, and we're the brains and personalities behind The Gifted Gab, a media platform and podcast centered on highlighting other creators, movers, and shakers from all disciplines and all walks of life.
Somewhere in the world, someone right now is thinking about starting a podcast. And I'm not only here to tell you how to do it, but why you should.
Podcasting is an excellent way to put yourself out there as a thought leader, an expert, or a content creator. Maybe you got a dope crystal collection, or you're a professional bird keeper. Whatever your niche, a podcast is a great way to build brand awareness and community. Regardless of what you choose, it's an excellent way to hone your creativity and find your voice.
Running a podcast is a great way to gain small production experience. Thanks. It's a great way to get familiar with creating content, from the development of an idea all the way to post-production and marketing. But before we just dive into it, there's a few things you're gonna need first. Let's talk about it. Mic check, mic check. How's that? Do I sound right for some terrible dating advice? Yeah? Now, you obviously need a setup when you're doing a podcast, but even before that, you need something much more important. Before a name, before any of that stuff, you need a theme. Now, for example, sports or even basketball is too broad a theme. But if you focus on basketball from a trainer's perspective, interviewing other trainers, now that's niche. Video game reviews, that's also niche. A true crime podcast focusing on specific crimes like petty crimes, also niche. The Petty Crime Time podcast. You can keep that one. Once you got something to talk about, then all the other things will fall into place. Your name, brand identity, aesthetic. You want all of these things to coincide with your theme. Then once you figured out your theme, now it's time to start talking about equipment.
Now it's time to talk tech. This is not your cue to go and blow a bag on a bunch of gizmos that you have no idea how to use. Don't get caught up in the consumerism here. We're here to create content. Do as I say and not as I do. And with that being said, we must use our resources that we have at our disposal. Podcasts are primarily audio, so a microphone setup is fundamental. If you're conducting in-person interviews, you're going to need a microphone with an XLR or a USB output, and that's got to go into a soundboard or a Zoom track recorder. Check in with your local library, on campus, or at your local rec center and see if they have the necessary equipment for you to start a podcast. Many places offer turnkey solutions for free or low cost, so that you can start your podcast at any time. If you're incorporating video into your podcast, preparation is key. Make sure you're doing research on the type of tech you're using, the room you're recording in, and what you want your podcast to look and feel like from an aesthetic standpoint. Our phones are powerful enough to capture a feature film on, so you don't need to invest any money into a fancy camera or anything like that. Start with what you got. FYI, your first episode will probably suck. But that shouldn't discourage you. You're also going to hate the sound of your voice. You might as well get used to it. Market, the most important. More important than tech, your name, all of that stuff. You could put a top of the line production out there, dropping gems every episode, but what good is it if we cannot find you? You're gonna need to think about who your audience is, where they are, and how you're gonna find them. Or rather, how they're gonna find you. So think about that. You're gonna need to look into hosting, where the podcast will actually live, what social media platforms you guys will specialize in, and how you're gonna let the world know that you guys have dropped a new episode.
The thing about creative ventures is you never know where it might take you. It might light a fire under you to pick up a hobby you never imagined, or it may introduce you to people you may have never met and start a worldwide movement.
A podcast is an effective tool to help you cultivate community, establish your voice, and double down on your mission. It can be used as a vessel to help you reach your desired audience if done correctly.
So if you're waiting on your sign to start a podcast, this is it.
Use these tips to help you establish your brand, figure out your setup, and identify your market, so you too can kick off your content creation journey.